In the deep, humid heart of the southeastern forest lay a quiet village called Umuagu, wrapped between tall palm trees, red clay paths, and the endless whisper of a wide river. The river was the lifeblood of the people. Its waters washed their bodies, nourished their farms, and sang them to sleep. Yet beneath its calm beauty, it carried a mystery that the villagers never spoke of openly. They called it Ekwensu Nwa Ogbo, the sacred crocodile spirit, the guardian of the river and the protector of their land. It was said to bring blessings when honoured, but misfortune when disrespected. Every morning, the village awakened to the smell of burnt palm oil and the sound of distant drumming from the shrine beside the river. Old women with deep wrinkles and slow steps walked the misty paths, carrying calabashes filled with foul blood, yam flour, and palm wine. They poured their offerings into the dark waters, whispering prayers passed down from their ancestors. The air around the shrine always felt heavier, as if even the wind itself held its breath in reverence or in fear. The shrine stood like something alive. Its mud walls were painted with white chalk and red camwood dye, carved with ancient symbols no one fully understood anymore. The smell of incense and the sharp scent of sacrifice filled the air. Inside, animal skulls and feathers hung in corners, and at the centre rested a wooden image of a crocodile with cowrie shells for eyes. To the villagers, it was not an idol, but a source of power, one that demanded both devotion and silence. Among these people lived a young man named Obinna, a gifted drummer born into the family of priests who had served the shrine for generations. His father, Elder Nana, was the chief custodian of the sacred river, a man whose words carried the weight of tradition and whose eyes reflected the calm certainty of one who spoke to unseen powers. Obinna grew up beneath his father's shadow, learning the songs and rituals of the shrine before he could even spell his name. His childhood was filled with chants, midnight ceremonies, and long nights under the moon, beating drums to rhythms that echoed through the forest. Every year during the festival of the river, the entire village gathered to dance, to feast, and to offer gifts to the crocodile spirit that they believed watched over them. Obinna loved his craft. The drum spoke through him like a living voice, and his music was known far beyond Umuagu. Yet deep within, he carried a quiet unease, a question that refused to fade. Sometimes, as he drummed during ceremonies, he would look upon the faces of the worshippers. Their eyes did not shine with joy, but with fear. Their dances felt heavy, their voices trembling. They did not seem to love their god, they obeyed it. And Obinna wondered if devotion born out of fear was truly sacred. Years passed. His fame as a drummer grew, and so did his restlessness. On quiet nights, he sat by the river's edge, watching the moon ripple across the water. The river seemed to breathe, alive and aware, whispering softly through its currents. He could feel something beyond its surface, a presence that watched, waiting. Then came the year that changed everything. One hot afternoon, strangers arrived in Umuagu. They were young men from a nearby town, carrying microphones and small speakers powered by car batteries. Their voices echoed through the market square as they preached about a man called Jesus Christ, whom they said was greater than all spirits of earth and water. To the elders, their words were a deep insult to the ancestors. They shouted, cursed, and demanded the strangers leave. Some women threw handfuls of sand at their feet, while the children laughed and mocked them. But Obinna did not mock. He watched them from a distance, quietly drawn to something he could not explain. Their eyes carried a calm strength, their words a peace that did not come from fear. When they sang, the air around them seemed lighter, as if it carried freedom instead of weight. That night, As Obinna walked home, he felt a stirring in his heart. For the first time, he questioned everything he had been taught. Could it be that what he had always known as light was actually darkness pretending to protect? In the following weeks, he found himself sneaking away to listen to the preachers from behind trees and huts. Their message spoke of a God who gave love freely, who did not demand sacrifice but offered forgiveness. Their songs spoke of peace that silenced fear, and those words began to burn within him. Yet, in Umuagu, change was never welcomed easily. The more Obinna leaned toward the new message, the more the river seemed to turn restless. The shrine grew silent and strange things began to happen. Chickens offered for sacrifice were found untouched, their blood dried into black dust. The river swelled even without rain. Strange noises filled the nights, and farmers found their crops drowned overnight. The elders declared that the spirit was angry. Whispers filled the air. Someone had offended the river god. Before long, suspicion turned toward Obinna. People claimed they had seen him near the preachers. The priests summoned him to perform a cleansing ritual that would prove his loyalty to the spirit. But Obinna refused. That single act broke something in the village, a silence that had lasted for generations. For the first time, someone had said no to the river god. That night, the skies opened in fury. Thunder roared across the heavens, lightning tore the clouds apart, and rain fell in blinding sheets. The river raged like a wounded beast. Villagers ran into their huts, praying desperately for mercy. And in the chaos, a child disappeared near the water. By morning, fear had seized every soul in Umuagu. The elders gathered and declared that the river spirit demanded blood for forgiveness, or more lives would be taken. The air in the village grew heavy, drums stopped, the shrine was silent, every heart trembled. But Obinna's fear was gone. In its place grew a peace that words could not explain, a strength that seemed to come from somewhere beyond himself. He stopped visiting the shrine. He spent his days in solitude, listening to the quiet voice within. He began to see clearly that what the people called protection was in truth bondage, and what they called loyalty was fear. Then came the night that would be remembered for generations. The moon was full, its silver light painting the surface of the river. The water began to churn violently, as if something beneath it had awakened. A shape rose from the depths, a massive crocodile, larger than any living creature. Its eyes burned like fire, and its scales shimmered like black iron under the moonlight. The villagers screamed. The priests ran to the shrine, pouring libations and chanting frantically. But the river did not calm. The monster rose higher, its roar echoing across the land. It had come for vengeance. Obinna stood at the edge of the village, drenched in rain, his heart pounding. Every drumbeat of thunder sounded like his destiny calling. He could feel the presence of two powers, one born of fear, the other of peace, colliding within him. He closed his eyes and whispered a prayer, not to the river, but to the God whose peace he had felt in his spirit. Suddenly the wind stopped. The rain ceased. The lightning froze in the clouds. A deep stillness covered the land. Then the crocodile convulsed. Once, twice, and slowly it sank back beneath the water. The river grew calm, smoother than glass. By morning the shrine's walls had cracked open. The wooden crocodile lay broken in two, its cowrie eyes shattered. The priests fled in confusion, and the villagers stood in stunned silence. For the first time in living memory, the river was quiet, not demanding, not threatening, just peaceful. Days passed, and peace returned to Umuagu. The river's waters ran clear again. Birds sang in trees that had long been silent. Children played freely by the riverbank, and the people no longer brought sacrifices. The shrine was abandoned and left to crumble. In its place, the villagers built a small white structure, a house of prayer. From it rose a new sound, songs of joy, clapping, laughter, and hope. The drums that once called spirits now beat to praise a different name. Obinna, once the drummer of the shrine, became a humble teacher of the new faith. His hands, once stained with ritual offerings, now turned the pages of a well-worn Bible. He spoke softly, teaching that true deliverance is not from water or earth, but from fear itself. Years later, people from other lands came to hear the story of Umuagu, the village once ruled by a spirit, now freed by faith. And in the cool of every evening, Obinna would sit by the river, watching the sunset melt into its calm waters. Sometimes he would smile, remembering the boy who once beat drums for shadows and the man who learned to listen to light. The river still flowed through Umuagu, but its voice had changed. It no longer whispered threats. It sang of peace. Its waters no longer carried fear, but freedom. The crocodile shrine was gone, and with it, the chains that had bound a people for centuries. In its place stood truth, the quiet truth that the greatest freedom is not of land or river, but of the human heart.